Test, 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 test. Hey, good morning from the office.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. We got a little different look here this morning. BKP got the B team. He called Bruce and Rick to sub in for him while he's doing a little stint over in Pickens County. So, it's always a little unnerving when Brian calls and he says, I'm the hardest working guy in North Georgia, and I'm going to need two of you to take advantage of or take over for what I do.
Blow and smoke.
So anyway, Bruce and I will give you a couple of the best 2 hours we can come up with. We'll see you again on Friday. We are part of the All-Star panel, but this morning we are live here in the office. North Georgia's only live online morning show, and we're happy to be here. Let me tell you how to get a hold of us if you'd like. You can always reach us at the hotline here, 24/7, 706-889-9700. On Instagram at FYNTV, at Fetch Your News. And you can tweet us at Fetch Your News or at FYNTV. And subscribe to our YouTube page, FYNTV Fetch Your News. You'll get a little blast back that you remember, and you'll get everything that we're putting together here this morning. You know, I hate to start the show with bad news, but everybody looks forward to their lottery ticket showing up, and they won't have to show up for work. But as you can see, Bruce and I are here, so obviously we didn't win it, but it is being reported that somebody in South Carolina was a
Single
winner.
ticket winner.
Yeah, a single ticket winner. Now there's 44 states that are involved, so
Yeah.
some of them hadn't reported in yet. There might be multiples, but at this point in time,
It could be election fraud, but
yeah. South Carolina, and I will just give you the happy totals. The winning ticket was 5, 28, 62, 65, 70, and the Powerball is number 5 again, number 5. So if you've at least got the number 5 Powerball, you double your money.
I got all 6.
You get
Wrong.
you get $4 back anyway. So we're gonna get around the board today. We're gonna start the show off probably with a little news on our thoughts about the gubernatorial race debate last night.
Here in Georgia,
Yeah, 3 candidates. We got Ted Metz,
Libertarian
the
candidate.
Libertarian right candidate.
Miss Stacey Abrams,
Stacey Abrams,
Democrat.
Yeah, was it Miss or Mrs.? He kept calling her.
Miss,
Yeah.
he called her everything. So.
Yeah.
But Stacey Abrams.
And then we've got the Republican candidate, Brian Kemp. So we'll touch on that as we go. We'll cover a little national news later. We'll get to get our latest caravan support report. Where do they show up? How do they get there? Who's paying for it? Wouldn't you love to know who's paying for that thing? Who the handlers are? Anyway, we'll
Get into that.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit. And we Bruce and I just with our wives just got back from a really nice trip in Europe, and we can maybe
Talk about that?
Yeah, talk about that for a few minutes, and then I thought at the end of the show, we're heating up. We were a week away from the announcement of the top 4 candidates for football.
CFP.
Yep, national championship. So thought we'd have a little fun, talk about that. Talk about Josh. Josh is at the helm this morning. We're happy that he's here to guide us through these dangerous chicanes as we traverse the FYN market. Glad everybody's with us this morning. So, Bruce, why don't we kick it off a little bit with just some general thoughts on the debate last night, sponsored by PBS Public Broadcasting, and
Where do they get their money?
from you and myself. That's who.
Okay.
Public Broadcasting.
Well, they
yeah.
called it a debate, but I don't know. I mean, there was so much rigging on that thing last night, it looked like a triple master. I mean, yeah, it was a very funny setup. We talked about it, we saw it, and just the way the moderator was and the questions, the way they rotated and the rules, it was not really done that well in my opinion. And it seemed like there were a lot of softballs thrown at Ms. Abrams and Metz. They just sort of let him go off on his own, and he rambled all over the place. We'll touch on a few things he said that were of interest. And then Brian Kemp seemed to get the harder questions that had to do with economy and, costs and how do you pay for this and how do you pay for that. So it was, it wasn't done as well as I think it could have been.
Well, Lisa Rams,
The moderator
just seemed really ill prepared. When you see these debates on national television, they're at least set up a little bit better. They give you an idea of what the ground rules are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the last minute, she said, "Oh, by the way, the ground rules can be found on our website." You know what?
Yeah, and then
if
she
I'm
said,
going to watch the debate, I'm not going to go to the website.
Yeah.
So just give me an idea.
And she pulled the moderator privilege card at a couple of points. She says, you know, as a moderator, I'm going to jump in when I feel it's appropriate.
Yeah. And to that point, Stacey Abrams never ran out of time.
Hey.
The other guys are getting cut
Interesting.
off left and right, and she doesn't run out of time. Anyway, that to Bruce's point, you know, it just seemed like it was the softball questions were set up.
And we had a fire alarm, too. At one point, Mr. Metz was answering something, and a fire alarm went off in the studio.
Out, what was that?
Yeah, what's that noise?
That was hysterical. Bruce and I were out last night, and we had an event that we had to go to. So I recorded the show. We came back and took copious notes and watched the whole thing. And both of us came away. You obviously knew what the talking points were from Stacey Abrams' standpoint. Medicaid expansion, voter suppression, and voter suppression.
Yeah.
And voter suppression.
Yeah.
What was the one thing that glaringly, well, there were a couple things that weren't talked about, but who was never mentioned in the entire 1 hour?
Donald John Trump. I think his name got mentioned in a few of the responses, but by and large, the Trump effect was totally ignored. I mean, his impact on the race locally here in Georgia, as well as nationally with some other races, didn't even happen. So
by design.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, by design. This guy is so popular, Trump that is, in Georgia. And a couple of days ago, he tweeted out, support again for Brian Kemp. He backs him 100%. They stayed away from that like the plague.
Yeah. It was interesting to behold.
Yeah. What else stuck out in your mind about...
Well, I think Kemp seemed to be on the defensive a lot because some of the questions given to him were more like fastballs because they kept hammering away on voter suppression and this whole thing with the 53,000 people that were put on the voter registration rolls by the group that Stacey Abrams started, was involved with the starting of it. And she says she has nothing to do with it now. But they had canvassers go out into the neighborhoods and register people to vote. And the problem has arisen that they didn't fill out the forms correctly. They didn't get all the details. And Georgia has a very good system for matching information on these forms with the databases for your driver's license or Social Security. And unfortunately, trying to match these things up after the fact has just taken an inordinate amount of time. And Stacey Abrams thinks it's a huge plot against her. And, it's sort of the pot calling the kettle color. And it just, she was involved with creating the issue, and now she's blaming Kemp for not, handling it in a correct amount of time. So.
I mean, that whole thing was by design. It's no secret that they had all these canvassers out there being paid for the number of paper applications that they brought back, most of which were not even accurately filled out. So consequently, You've got this stack of papers that the staff has to go through to try to make hide nor hair of what they're doing. And incidentally, Stacey Abrams, didn't she vote against the
online voter registration
program, which surely would have made it easier.
I registered in person, but the online voting system, as it's been described, seems very, very straightforward and simple. I mean, and they went through the whole debate, and then at the very end, Ms. Abrams said, "Well, there's places where there's no broadband." I mean, really? Everyone's got a cell phone. You can walk into a coffee shop that's got Wi-Fi. I mean, it's not that big a deal, I think, to get online.
Yeah, for her to sit there and say that they couldn't get registered because there's no broadband is absolutely one of the most I mean, I laughed out loud.
It's pretty weak
when she said that. I mean, who in the world, regardless of where you go in the community, whether it be the less economic fortuned areas, if you can couch it that way,
Well, the rural areas, you know,
everybody's carrying a cell phone, folks.
yeah.
Everybody's
Farmers
got
on
a cell
tractors
phone.
are like doing all their plowing and getting information by GPS. I mean, this is everywhere now.
Yeah.
So
That was just one of the weakest arguments I've ever heard. And some of those reporters, you know, some of the softball questions, it was so set up for Stacey Abrams to get. Here you go. What was one of the first questions that they asked her at the beginning of the debate to get that whole thing off the front page?
the burning the flag incident.
Burning the flag.
Back
Yep.
when she was in college.
And all she wanted to do was just say, hey, the governor supported it, and you know, it was the time, and
Getting the Confederate symbol off the Georgia flag in 1992 or 6 or
whatever
it
it
happened.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He, you know, so that again was just
They came and went. I mean, it was
an
like
absolute attempt not to talk about it, not to throw her under the bus, but get it off the front page at the beginning of the beginning of the debate. So boom, we're done. See you, wouldn't want to be you.
yeah, burning any flag. I mean, you know, you think they could have spent some more time on that, or at least asked, you know, Kemp his opinion, but it never happened. So it came and went very quickly.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did we learn?
Well, it tied into the medical Medicaid expansion, and there was a number of $3 billion tossed around, and this is all tied into the code words access for health, which is sort of code for single payer. I don't know if the $3 billion is strictly just expanding Medicaid, because if it's single payer, it's probably a much larger number than that. So I'm not sure if Georgia's one of the states that opted out of Medicaid back when Obamacare first did.
They are.
Okay.
Yep.
I know from living in Louisiana before that, they did the same thing there, because our governor at the time, Bobby Jindal, said, you know, you get into these Medicaid programs and it's subsidized by the federal government for a certain number of years, but then they start to drop it down, and the state has to pick up the monies that they used to get from the federal government. And, you know, Jindal looked at that and said, you know, 5-7 years out, he said, you know, we're going to have to raise taxes. There's no way we can pay for this because we don't have the money now. So
Yeah.
I think that's a similar situation that happened here.
Exactly. Yeah. Metz, Libertarian candidate Ted Metz threw out a number saying it would cost the individual taxpayers in Georgia $13,000.
I think that was Brian Kemp that said that.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah.
She never refuted that, though, did she?
No, there were a lot of numbers floating around that were, you know, out there and then never followed up on, or never corroborated, or no, they were never answered.
Well, they were never asked. She was never asked, how are you going to pay for this stuff? You know, when she comes out with the code word
Access for health.
access for health, again,
For hardworking Georgians.
yeah, that just means single payer.
Which means hardworking Georgians will be paying for a lot of people that aren't contributing one thin penny.
Right, exactly. And let's see, where else did they go? You know, there's 5 takeaways from the debate. Voter suppression, we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Allegations, took center stage. Some of the reports say Kemp skirted around the issue, wouldn't resign as I thought that was a good point. You know, they've been hammering him for having the ability as Secretary of State to monitor how the voters attempt and are allowed to vote.
Mm-hmm. Setting up that there's a conflict.
Yeah.
Because he's Secretary of State and he's running for governor.
Right.
And how can the vote be valid if the Secretary of State office is approving the vote at the end of the day?
I thought it was a good response though when he said Kathy Cox, who was Secretary of State, did the same thing and she was running for governor at the same time. So I thought that was a pretty good, solid, succinct
And he
answer.
made the point that most of all of it is controlled at the local election board level in the counties or the cities.
Yeah.
And it isn't something that the Secretary of State office for the state gets involved with.
Yeah, everybody reports in to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State just reports what they get from the counties.
Right. It's validated and verified at the county level.
Yeah. So the other thing that kept coming out was the immigration issue.
Documented and undocumented.
Yep. He kept coming. Kemp kept referring to the comments Abrams made at a campaign stop where she said, "The coming blue wave will include both documented and undocumented immigrants." You know, and they make the point conservatives have seized on the comments to accuse her of encouraging illegal voting. What you say?
Yeah, she just sort of slid over that. I mean, he asked her that a number of different ways at different times, and she just sort of slid over that and kind of shifted the response to voter suppression, and people who should be allowed to vote. The system makes it too hard with all this contention about the votes that didn't get registered properly. The Secretary of State, Mr. Kemp, has created an atmosphere of fear. People are afraid to vote or register. I mean, it's just really stretching it.
That is the Democrat dog whistle. Fear. You're going to hear fear so many times over the next 2 weeks, it's going to scare you. You're going to be feared.
We know at the national level, they're already throwing that at Trump, saying, he's a fearmonger.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that comes to the caravan situation. He's throwing fear into everybody. I kind of remember when they showed a likeness of Paul Ryan pushing somebody off the side of the cliff in a wheelchair.
Grandma over the cliff.
Yeah, that wasn't fear. Man,
that was a pretty nasty commercial.
Yeah, it was absolutely nasty. Okay, we touched on the immigration thing. Candidates didn't hold back from personal attacks, one of the 5 takeaways. Abrams and Metz both accused Kemp of shady and unethical behavior, while Kemp hit Abrams over her lack of paying her taxes.
Yeah, and she kept going back to she never really said, I didn't pay my taxes, although she did say, I'm on a program now to pay my taxes, so it's kind of there in the weeds, folks, but she obviously didn't pay her taxes, and she kept saying that her parents needed cancer treatment, so that was a priority.
Her father.
That she paid for the parents, the father's cancer treatments. There was some allegation about Brian Kemp about a $500,000 loan that basically was alleged he was personally responsible for. He explained that by saying he was in a company that he owned 8% of, and It was a corporate loan issue, and I don't really know the status of that, but that seemed to be a very logical, straightforward response.
If anybody out there is thinking that didn't happen, I urge you to go to the Kemp website, because it is chronicled in there with footnotes and everything how that whole case came down. And he was exonerated. So suffice to say that they're beating him up over that.
We shouldn't forget Mr. Metz. I mean, he said a few interesting things in there. Ted Metz, the Libertarian candidate. I mean, at one point he said, I sort of like the definition or statement from Harry Truman. Politicians are crooks. So
wait! I wrote that down last night.
Yes, kind of threw that out there. And
let's see, I'm like Brian now. Let's see, nobody gets rich in politics unless they are crooked.
Yeah. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Ted.
There's a lot of rich senators and there's a lot of rich representatives.
It has been said that candidates that win national office, be they congressmen or senators or cabinet people, they typically have a higher net worth when they get out of public service than when they went in. So you can take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, exactly.
He also opened the show right when the fire alarm went off. Mr. Metz had a position that a number of the state agencies should be cut back, trimmed, and one of the reporters asked him, said, well, what are you going to tell the people that are affected by that lose their jobs? And he says, well, they're going to have to find a new job.
Find a new job, cut and dried, spoken like a true libertarian.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about the candidate, Metz, but it was glaringly apparent that he had a physical disability.
Yes.
He was missing his left ear. I did some, I went in and checked it out. He's a Navy vet who, during the course of his career, dealt a lot with things that exposed him to radiation. And he found a spot on his, his left ear, the one that's missing now, and it was treated for a while. You remember in the debate, he made a lot of references to how we should replace a lot of our cash crops with hemp.
Industrial hemp.
Industrial hemp. He made a big deal about that. Well, in doing some research, he's also a huge advocate of what they call Rick Simpson cannabis oil. Apparently, Rick Simpson is some guru in the cannabis industry that has developed a cannabis oil that he claims cures cancer.
Interesting.
So
I have not heard of.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that, but suffice to say, the cancer spread, and he had a huge tumor on the side of his head. He had to go to Emory for treatment, and consequently, the cancer spread down into his body, into his lymph nodes, and so that's why he had to have his ear excised.
The whole ear.
Yeah, and so that should put to rest, what's going on with this guy. Suffice to say, he's a Navy vet. He overcame cancer, and he was head of the Libertarian Party in the state of Georgia, and they went to the National Convention, and the National Convention, always tries to support a candidate for public office. They couldn't find a Libertarian candidate in Georgia that wanted to step up and run for governor.
Wow.
So, he came kind of to the rescue. And, I thought he was formidable. He made some good points.
He was, on industrial hemp, he talked about anything oil can do, hemp can do. And then he went through a laundry list of things that hemp is used for, chemicals, and sort of tied it up with a bow saying, it goes into baby food formula.
Right.
And so he made a few interesting points. On some of the other questions, I think he was a little ill-prepared and, admitted as much on a few. But he brought, I think, an interesting counterweight to the other two, just going at each other on, how much money they spent or owe or pay or whatever. So.
Yeah. What else? Anything...
Well, I think
to death, but
tying the national election into this, and again with no mention of Trump, but the whole fear mongering issue that now it seems after the speech that Trump gave in Houston, where the major networks.
Yeah, that was a marathon, wasn't it?
Oh boy, it's a long one. But they fact checked it or lie checked it, as they said, and they had this whole list of things they said were outright lies, and it seems as well that the tag is going to be anybody who supports Trump, aligned with Trump, mentions Trump, is going to be depicted as a liar, and I think that's.
We're going to hear that for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. It goes with the fear-mongering issue.
Right. Those are going to be the two Democrat talking points for the next 2 weeks before these midterm elections. They're going to keep hammering fear, and they're going to keep hammering the other, which was lying. Mm-hmm. They're already making a big deal about pre-existing conditions and who voted against it.
Right.
MSNBC comes out with this big graph and shows, who voted against it, and, Ted Cruz is up there among others. So
Well, the whole pre-existing conditions. I mean, you had an earache, 6 years ago, and you got hearing loss. That's a pre-existing condition. How far can you stretch that definition of pre-existing condition? I mean, everybody's got something going on in their body or their medical situation.
yeah,
So,
well, it was
I mean,
clear.
that's a dog whistle. I think pre-existing condition.
Yeah, exactly. And it was clear in the debate that, Abrams put herself out there as someone that could be a bipartisan, reach across the aisle.
Again and again and again and again.
Yeah, exactly. And what Kemp kept doing was hammering and kind of preaching to his base. He wanted to keep the base support there. So, it's going to come down to thousands of votes. And at the end of the day, it's going to be about turnout. And I don't care what race we're talking about, whether it be the gubernatorial race here, the governor's race in Florida, which has turned into a Donnybrook. It's going to be about
which it shouldn't
turnout.
be. I mean, that one's black and white. Sorry to use the analogy there, but I mean that any Floridian could vote for the mayor of was it Jacksonville or Tallahassee? Tallahassee. He's under investigation for corruption. They have an FBI agent giving him tickets to some high-end play, who for months now he said, "Oh, I got those from my brother." How could you let
He
someone
got
like
caught
that
in a blatant lie, and he's really doing a dodge and pony show. There's something going on. BKP and I were talking about. I just don't understand how they're pushing this smooth-talking candidate so hard. And, Brian will probably touch on it maybe next week or toward the end of the week here as we get in deeper. But there's something going on down there that doesn't meet the eye. And, I haven't done enough research to kind of...
There's something going on across the country.
Yeah. Well,
it is like fear-mongering, and, Republicans are soulless. They don't have any heart. And we're going to probably get into that a little bit deeper with the national issue and the caravan. But, I mean, they're trying to create this stark difference between, Republicans who don't care about anything but money and making more of it and keeping it all, versus Democrats who want to open the borders willy-nilly and just let anybody who shows up come in. I mean, and that is
globalists versus nationalists.
Yeah, I mean that's just a death knell for this country, in my opinion.
Exactly. You can't have a democracy unless you've got border control.
Well, yeah, you need law and order across the board. I mean, it's not just the border. Once you get here, there's laws people have to adhere
One of the things that we didn't touch on, which I think was interesting, is that the Georgia economy is doing extremely well. We've been the number one place to do business in the country for I don't know how many years. The Mercedes-Benz came here. We're the Eastern capital for movie making. The state is doing well. Governor Deal did a good job, and it was never asked of Miss Abrams how she would try to continue that trend. Doesn't it just seem
there was
like
one allusion to it, say she kind of dipped her toe in that, I think in one of her responses, but I mean it was lightly skimmed over. Let's say that they didn't really dive into it very deeply at all. But again, I mean the format I don't think worked well for it. With these reporters asking questions which they knew were hot button issues.
Right.
Again, the burning the flag thing. Well, I was a student at Spelman College, and going down that, I worked on a lot of joint task force on crime, so I'm better prepared than any of the other people standing up here to. I'm going. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Anyway, it was interesting. Brian has taught me something that kind of resonates. And I checked it this morning. I get an email blast every day from the Abrams campaign because I signed up for it. I want to know what she's talking about. This morning it was kind of funny. Early this morning, I don't know when these things come out. Probably the same time the talking points do.
About the time you went to bed, they come.
About 4:30 in the morning. Yeah. Anyway, it comes out and it says, "In case you missed the debate last night, Stacey won." Oh, really? Okay.
Winners and losers.
And they're going to start attacking me again now. So please support my campaign and send more money. Anyway.
And she did it a couple times. She says, she sort of like, I know my candidate is going to say something about this or this or this. I mean, so
well, that was trying to deflect. She was just trying to, she was trying to cut the legs out from
innovation waivers. I know my opposition is going to say something about innovation waivers, and he never did. So.
That's right. Yep. Again, one thing they never talked about was Trump. They're afraid of this guy. He's popular in this state, and if they'd have brought up his name, it would have been a death knell, I think. But
well, going back to turnout a little bit, I mean, in terms, I think of how well the state's doing and how people are energized about this election. We did early voting because we're going to be traveling on election day, so we weren't going to be here, so we did early voting. And the place where we vote in Fannin County basically said they had, on the first day of voting, they had a record turnout, even higher numbers than the 2016 election.
Right.
And I don't know any split on that with Republicans or Democrats or independents, but they said the highest ever. So I think that's an indication that there is a...
Well, it's being reported across the board. That the
very energized base.
Yeah, Republican base.
Yeah,
and they're leading big time across the board in some of these key states that are going to determine the House and the Senate. So
yeah, maybe one thing my final takeaway, my one little note from the debate that maybe you being a longer term resident in Georgia than I am, she said something along the criminal lines with bonds. And she made the statement, cash bonds criminalize the poor.
Yeah.
Now, this is like people commit crimes, have to pay cash, or
well, they
you can explain that to me.
They don't have the money to get out of jail.
No get out of jail card.
No get out of jail card, so consequently, the underprivileged have to stay in jail longer.
Okay, so if they have to pay cash or they don't have the cash, they're
they're
criminalized, but they may be committed a crime anyway, whether they paid a bond or not.
Yeah, maybe you committed a crime, so it's just more liberal doublespeak about
going after that block of
that block of voters,
criminalized poor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, we're gonna have to endure another one of these debates. I think there's one on November 4th, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. But 2 days before the election, we're gonna see another statewide state debate.
PBS again?
No, I think it's being done by the CBS affiliate.
Oh, okay.
I think that's
hope
what
the format and the.
I hope they explain some things a little bit better, but
truly.
We'll see how that goes. Anyway. We beat that horse, I think, till it's about dead in the water. So
no air left in the debate.
Yeah, there's no air left in the debate. I'm sure Brian will have his take on it. He might be able to glean some other stuff. He's pretty insightful on this stuff. He's been a debate moderator several times, and to his credit, he said, if I want to fix a debate, I know how to ask the questions right, and he'll probably tell everybody that was a fixed debate. So. Anyway, Josh, we probably need to make some room here for our valued sponsors and pay a few bills here. So why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll talk about some national news. We'll talk about the caravan a little bit, and then later on, we're going to touch on some sports stuff, have some fun. So take us to break, Josh, please.
Ace is your healthful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East LJ. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Clearance rolls on at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, and the discounts on 2018 Chevys are huge. Forget MSRP on America's pickup truck. Save over $13,000 off Silverado Crew Cab LT. Forget MSRP on America's muscle car. Save over $7,000 off Camaro. The model year and discounts are huge, but the 2018 Chevys are going fast. Hurry to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Here's to 60 years of Pizza Hut, to original pan, to stuffed crust, and to the best of both. The new double cheesy crust pan pizza with stuffed crust cheese baked just inside the golden edge of original pan. Here for a limited time. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Hey, we're back. We are live here in the studio. We're Bruce and Rick, part of the All-Star panel. Look forward to seeing our counterparts on Friday, Candace and Jane.
All-star panel.
Yeah, we are here in
Otherwise known as the ASPs.
in relief of BKP today. Yeah, relief of BKP today. I think he was traveling to Pickens County today, one of the 10 counties that Fetcher News covers. There was an important meeting over there that he really didn't want to miss. I think he was.
We just sent him to the bullpen. He needed some time.
Yeah, he needed some time off. Anyway, this time of the season it really makes you appreciate North Georgia. We just you get up this morning and it was it was crisp, it was clean, full moon last night.
Oh boy, was it bright!
Full of stars. Just a really, really neat time of the year when the leaves start to turn. We've had the last 2 weekends up here in Gilmer. We've had the Apple Fest, very, very successful. They got a little rain on Saturday of the second weekend, but it went away early morning, and so to speak, the spirits were not dampened.
Who knew apples could draw so many people?
Yeah.
I'm just amazed.
I mean, all the orchards are full. I mean, the cars, the traffic coming up here is nonstop. That's not to keep people away, but there's a steady stream of folks coming up here that really, really enjoy being up here and seeing the sights, riding the scenic train in Blue Ridge, going to Mercier's, doing the You Pick 'em apples, having fried pies.
Hard cider,
yeah, yeah. There's just a whole lot to do up here, and it really makes you appreciate what we're blessed with up here in North Georgia. So, if you haven't been up to see us, take a ride up 515. Come down from Murphy. Come down from
Chattanooga.
Yeah, Chattanooga. Come visit us. See how pretty it is up here. And but when you leave, don't tell anybody, okay? Because we don't want it to get it too crowded up here. But
there's soft cider too.
Yeah. I saw something that was kind of interesting. It was Chick-fil-A. You like Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, spicy chicken.
Chick-fil-A is, I think it's the third biggest fast food company now.
I don't know the rankings, but I believe it.
I think they are.
They're very popular.
Very, very popular. They've spread to New York. They've spread to the West Coast. And they're third, and they're only open 6 days a week, by the way. They never on a Sunday, which is a credit to the family-owned business. But they're making a menu change.
Yep, I heard about this.
Big menu change. They're testing it, and people are going crazy. It's a side item. You know what it is?
I know what it is.
And it's going to be really good. Yep, we're going to mac and cheese, folks. We're going to mac and cheese to complement those awesome waffle fries. So I think you're going to find that nationwide.
Or maybe replace,
Oh, you
Hold
can't
the waffle.
You can't replace the waffle fries.
Oh, come on.
Anyway, interesting article again that I saw. New polling nightmare. We've been saying for a long time.
Amongst ourselves.
Yeah, amongst ourselves, and we've even said it on the show, that my humble opinion, and I think we can get some concurrence across the panel, as they found out in the last national election, they being the pollsters, I think polls, and I've told my friend Ross, who's a regular viewer, polls are irrelevant anymore. Interesting article that just came out on, in
the state of polling.
Exactly. The Washington Examiner. New polling nightmare. Trump supporters won't say it out loud. They say when they do a poll, they'll call, and they'll get 4 to 5% that say they're undecided, which is, I guess, about a typical number. But if it's a really controversial issue that involves Trump, that poll, that undecided, jumps up to 18 to 25%. We've got friends that just say, we know who we're voting for. We're voting for Trump. but I'm not going to put a yard sign out. I'm not going to wear a "Make America Great Again" hat. I'm not going to put a bumper sticker on my car.
Think of the poor guy that had that new truck.
Yeah, and they burned it.
Yeah, they burned it. Yeah,
I mean, they incinerated it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know,
it's just nasty.
So, yeah, mobs versus jobs, but it's just amazing. They say that his being Trump, his positive numbers or his what's the number?
His approvals.
Approval, yeah. Thank you. The approval numbers are in the high 40s.
Oh, touching 50, if not low 50s.
I guarantee you, folks, those things are in the 60s. If the truth be told, and if the polls were accurate,
which they're not,
you know, they're making our point here.
Yeah, and even with you know, the changes in polling and again the ones where they call you up, you know, you need a landline, so people with cell phones basically, which is virtually everybody now, never get polled. But you know, for years and years, the breakdown of polls has indicated that they always have a larger number of Democrats in the base. It's something like, you know, 52 to maybe as high as 58% of the people they are asking questions of. About
when you look at the fine print and see how the poll is determined.
Yeah, they always have more Democrats than they do Republicans and independents. So, you know, for years I've said, you know, you got to take these things with a grain of salt.
Right.
They do give some indication, but I think your point's well taken that a lot of people are very hesitant, and I would say even Democrats and independents, you know, they just do not want to go on the record with something that is at the end of the day, a very personal decision. And in the sanctity of the voting booth, they can vote as they see fit. But I don't think people like to throw that out there to a pollster.
Yeah, I mean, totally agreed. You know, we just came back from a trip where we were with, you know, 120 people, and you know, the people are so self-conscious about being politically correct. You know, they kind of walk on eggshells.
The first day or two,
everybody's kind of creeping around going...
A few probing questions.
Yeah, the probing questions to see, you know, okay, where do you lie politically?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, how do you feel about this? And, you know, you can almost kind of pick up on some of the people that we met. You know, they're from, you know, the North Shore of Chicago.
And from Ohio, Central Ohio,
and you know, and all of a sudden,
Asheville.
You're right, and they'll throw something
Rome,
out.
Georgia.
They'll throw something out that'll go, whoa, where did that come from? And you go, yeah, let's see, North Shore, Chicago. You know, that
El Paso,
that little tidbit that just came out there, and it was when the Kavanaugh things were going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, you know,
decided yet.
Yeah, there were some jibes in there about you know, stuff going on in Washington, and anyway, it just proves the point on an endless basis about how people really just, you know, they're
sensitive
about showing you who they are, and like you say, you know, the sanctity of the voting booth, and that should be respected. So,
well, I mean, on, you know, a fun type thing we were on. I mean, you don't want to get into, you know, an emotional debate, you know, with someone about you know, believing Dr. Ford, you know, and the allegations. And
you got to pass these people in the halls. So
yeah, exactly. You know, you're sitting with them on the bus all day or whatever it is. So.
That's right.
Yeah,
but it's just fun to see how the dynamics work.
Yeah. I mean, you know, one response to, you know, a question, they go, oh, boy, that's a load off.
Yeah, we had a guy on our ship, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but you know, we're sitting on the top of the talk, just chit chatting. You know, hey, where are you from? I'm from Asheville. You know, well, what you do? You know, what are you doing in Nashville? Asheville. Well, just kind of, you know, hanging out. And
where are you from?
Yeah,
North Georgia.
And then you know, where did you move from? Houston. And you know, next thing I know, this guy works for Trump. So head of the economic councils. It was really, really cool, and it was. But that took me 2 days to get that out of the guy.
Yeah. Slowly,
Yeah,
slowly.
right. But
don't want to
I'll
move too
tell you,
fast on some of these
it was
things.
really, really fun. He was really, really fun to talk to, and he really gave us some insight into Trump's thinking, and he just.
And some of the people, have been in the national news. Some have come, some have gone, some.
Right. Yeah,
are
he had
still
to
there.
take on all of them because he knew them all. So
Yeah,
it was, that was a typical guy, or that was not a typical guy that you find on a.
Having said that, I don't think I'd want to spend much time with Marie Harf. To get the other side of it.
There were two couples on there that and it was so. I'm sorry, it was just so typical though that you look at them and they had two different last names.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, fine. Maybe they do it for for
Professional reasons.
for professional reasons or whatever.
Yes.
But as soon as you started to drill down, they were liberals.
Yeah.
But not that there's anything wrong with that. But it just kind of fits the mold.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway.
We are a nation of mutts.
So.
Speaking of the nation, we should go from the micro Georgia view to the macro U.S. view.
All right, let's do it.
What topics are out there?
Well, let's. We've got a few minutes before we take our next break.
We got all the time in the world.
Yeah, why don't we wait till after the 9:00 hour to do Caravan?
Okay.
Have you got some other things to touch on? I know that you did a little research on some.
Well, we can go into that. Yeah, that's maybe a good little thing, or I can talk about. If I can find that now, where did I put it?
That's all right.
Now I'm doing a.
I can do a little dance up here while you're.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Okay, you dance and.
You're dancing.
Okay, this is an environmental thing, so we were kind of taking a 90-degree here, but there's been all this talk about climate change, again with the recent hurricanes. Every time there's a hurricane now, month after month, year after year, it gets more and more unhinged.
More intense.
More unhinged that, climate change is causing all these. Well, after the 2005-2008 period, where we had Katrina and Rita and Ike and all them, we've had a relatively quiet period up until this year. So, we've had Florence and Michael, and some of those have been pretty big disasters. Harvey last year, but I just wanted to go back and. Some folks might remember that before the Paris Climate Accord, there was the Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol was sort of the lead-in to the Paris Climate Accord. And this was done in 1997. And
The
Kyoto Protocol.
Yep.
And 38 countries, so it wasn't as big a group as the Paris Climate Accord. Basically, this is a report card on the Kyoto Climate Accord. How well did it work? Well, 38 countries collectively reduced their output by 2 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year from 2008 to 2012 compared to 1990. That makes it sound like the treaty was a success. But emissions from the former Soviet states had plummeted before the deal was even signed, meaning a reduction of 2.2 gigatons cannot be attributed to the protocol. And you take that out, 38 countries failed to meet their target. What a shock.
Of course they did.
What a shock.
How are we doing on that?
We did better just on our own. I mean, in terms of, these massive numbers. So Kyoto Protocol, it wasn't a big hit. So now we're into the Paris climate deal. And there's a recent UN report, and again, the UN has been the body that has driven a lot of the science that these accords or these treaties have been based on, and basically said, the Paris Climate Accord is a disaster in the making, because a number of the things that they are talking about doing and achieving by 2030 have to have things that are put into effect by 2020, 2 years from now. So if they're going to meet their targets in 2 years from now, renewable energy has to go up from its current share to 30%. Electric cars have to go from 15% and they're less than 1% of the total cars sold now.
Oh boy.
Mass transit has to double. And the big kicker here, coal-fired plants have to be phased out worldwide starting now. Well, the bad news with that is there's 273 gigawatts of new coal-fired production being built right now, and another 570 gigawatts that is being projected to be built and waiting for approval. That's a 42% increase in global energy production. So it looks like President Trump pulling us out of this debacle was very, very prudent and sage, because it's not going to make a hill of beans difference by 2020 or 2030 or 2050. So,
I mean, just simply put, don't you think the UN does that a lot of times just to raise money?
oh yeah, well, the whole climate change research is a big, grab the brass ball thing. I mean, all these guys are looking for research dollars, and groups like this, and then the independent countries around the world, they throw a lot of money at this because they think, it's a good vote getter.
Right.
And in reality, I mean, they fudge the numbers and they play around with this, and you talk about fear mongering. We're all going to be up to our eyeballs in salt water, even here in North Georgia. Not happening.
Yeah, wasn't Miami supposed to be underwater by now?
Oh yeah. Lots of things are supposed to happen by now, and they haven't. So,
when you listen to Rush is one of the biggest detractors of all of this global warming stuff, and and I'll never forget when they had that huge oil leak.
The spill in the Gulf?
Mm-hmm. The oil just went away. The ocean has a way of taking care of itself,
Yeah.
Now, apparently it can't consume all this plastic that's allegedly floating out there like the size of Texas.
And a lot of that comes from developing countries. I mean, if you travel around the world, I mean, if you're in Pakistan or India or China or Indonesia.
Well, you've been to all those places, right?
I have. And, the junk that's in the water there is amazing. And, again, these are the countries that, have very weak rules for any kind of monitoring or enforcement of environmental laws. So a lot of stuff is coming from them. The U.S., by comparison, is very, very clean. In this respect, but these floating islands of plastic and all this sort of stuff. I mean, you can see that in a lot of harbors in these countries from around the world, and it's important for them, for their governments, to take this by the horns and deal with it, and not just say it's an international problem, because the same sort of thing. They're looking for money.
Yeah,
and the UN.
What was a beach that was just closed down for like a year? In Indonesia, was it?
No, Philippines.
Yeah,
Boracay.
Yeah. I mean, that's a playground, right?
Yeah. It's a real hot spot. It's beautiful sand beaches, beautiful turquoise, Caribbean kind of stuff. And they had raw
sewage.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these countries, I mean, they don't have the sewage systems like we're used to in this country and a lot of developed countries.
The water treatment plants and things like that.
Right. I mean, that all costs money, and, someone's got to pay for it, and a lot of these are emerging economies, in quotes. They just don't have the money for it. They don't have the political will to grapple with it, even with it being a tourist attraction where you want to maintain a very clean environment. So... and it's not just Boracay. I mean, there's other places that there's bad stuff in the water that shouldn't be there, and we'll see if these countries step up. But they all seem to get under the UN umbrella and say, we're part of the UN program on this or the UN program on that, and that sort of buys them time. But
you worked overseas in the bulk storage industry.
Yes, I did.
Petroleum
and chemicals.
A lot of petrochemicals. Mm-hmm. As a U.S.-based company, as a guy working overseas on their behalf, were some of the rules more lax over there?
In some of the countries, yes. I mean,
were you obligated to work under the same laws and environmental rules that we have imposed here over in an emerging country, say?
By and large, we would try to do better than the local guidelines, just because that was our corporate philosophy. So.
Right. That was your mission statement. That's just what you did.
Exactly. I mean, so, and in some places there were very light regulations on emissions from tanks, because tanks breathe. They get hot, gases go out or emissions go out, and in the night, it sucks in, it goes out, it comes in, particularly in hot climates. So in the States, a lot of that stuff is very regulated. Tanks have to have certain control systems on them. And when you go overseas to a place like Spain or Singapore or Indonesia or Malaysia, very relaxed compared to U.S. standards. But in those places where we had large tank farms, we would certainly apply, in most cases, U.S. guidelines or U.S. standards to control that sort of stuff.
And you probably were doing that at the risk of being competitive sometimes too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if, Pa Smith down the road, has got a little tank farm or something like that. He's sitting on dirt. Tanks aren't properly attached. Pipes are leaking. So yeah, we went above and beyond. But you were in a competitive situation with them. Definitely.
Yeah, I would expect that to be the case. Anyway, we're having some fun here. We're halfway through. We're halfway home. It's 9 o'clock. Probably take another break here for a few minutes, then we'll come back and talk about these 7,000 to 14,000 people that are migrating to the north.
Pick a number.
Pick a number. Group. Yeah, pick a number. Figure out who's paying for that stuff. Anyway, Josh is at the helm this morning. We are Rick and Bruce. We're glad to be here. We're glad to be at FYN. Brian's out in the field this morning, working hard, trying to come up with some new angles on some things that I'm sure he'll bring you tomorrow. So, Josh, how about taking us to break for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and talk caravan.
Ace is your helpful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in L.J. next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in L.J. next to Walmart.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East L.J. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and L.J., Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Clearance rolls on at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, and the discounts on 2018 Chevys are huge. Forget MSRP on America's pickup truck. Save over $13,000 off Silverado Crew Cab LT. Forget MSRP on America's muscle car. Save over $7,000 off Camaro. The model year and discounts are huge, but the 2018 Chevys are going fast. Hurry to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Here's to 60 years of Pizza Hut, to original pan, to stuffed crust, and to the best of both. The new double cheesy crust pan pizza with stuffed crust cheese baked just inside the golden edge of original pan. Here for a limited time. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Hey, we're back. Took a little break there, took a little pause for the cause. We acknowledge some of our very, very kind and loyal sponsors. We've got a lot of folks up here who support FYNTV, and we hope when you see their ads that you do the same. We like to buy local. We like to support who supports us. So
Support our sponsors.
yeah, support our sponsors. All right, how about, we wanted to touch on this caravan debacle, so
Let's go national.
let's go national. All right.
Jesse Waters on Fox says, it's not a caravan, it's a parade. He got into it last night with Juan Williams, and they were going hammer and tong. And
Oh, they were.
yeah,
I had that recorded, and I said, let's watch that again, and I'm telling you,
yeah.
they were beating each other up hard.
And Juan, throws this line out, you like the stale bread of hatred. I mean, really, Juan? Come on.
And this is on the 5, folks, and Gutfeld just sits there with his head, and he's just shaking his head, and,
Yeah, just amazing. I mean, Juan thinks anything that, people say about Trump, whatever he does, it's always like, he's just, such a impertinent guy, and he's denigrating the office of the presidency, and he's a racist, and everything he does is racist. And
that's what Gutfeld said. I mean, he basically came right out and said, whenever you have a problem, Juan, you pull the race card out.
You see everything through a race filter, and unfortunately, I think that's fairly pervasive. If not race, then misogyny. If not that, homophobic. If not that, anti-environment. On and on and on. So it's just very frustrating that people really don't give him much credit for any of the things he's done, and particularly the mass media. I mean, they stay away from him like he's toxic.
What's your thoughts on this massive humanity that's marching up the eastern? I think they're marching up the eastern side of Mexico now, right? They showed a path.
Yeah, I think they want to get to
Into Texas.
McAllen, Texas, I think, which is more to the east than because I mean you get out in the western part or Big Bend or something like that. I mean it's mountainous.
Yeah.
I mean it's really uphill.
Right.
So it's orchestrated. Unknown parties are paying for it. I really wish the Mexican government would step in and do something. They said they would, but now they seem sort of complicit. Perhaps to embarrass Trump, or they don't want to have the public relations fallout from stopping these people. So
international law, correct me if I'm wrong, international law says that if you are seeking asylum, which this group is alleging they are,
seems to be the mantra. Yes,
they're seeking asylum because they've been persecuted.
Yeah,
and they're in fear of their lives.
Right.
So, international law says that the first international border that you come to, that's where you have to seek asylum.
Correct.
And that's why Trump and the Mexican president, I thought, came to an agreement that said, okay, we're going to get the UN involved. And then once again, the UN, in their inimitable fashion, throws the dollar card against it and said, okay, fine, here's what it's going to cost you. Was that?
Well, I don't know, if the UN was supposed to be the coordinating agency. I mean, basically, it's a Mexican issue. I mean, the people are coming into their country. To me, the Mexican government should say, okay, asylum seekers over here. All the rest of you go home. They didn't do that, and I don't know if they, sort of washed their hands of it because they didn't, again, want to spend the money or didn't want to deal with the public relations fallout. But I think they were overwhelmed. I mean, they had something like 500, military police or something on the border. And when you got 6,000, 7,000, whatever it was,
that are rocking the fence.
Yeah. I think
that
they
fence opened up and.
Hey, President,
Yeah.
we're not going to do this.
That's right.
And he goes, I agree. Get out of the way.
Let him go.
So
Laura Ingraham made, and I don't know where these numbers come from, but it seems high, but I don't know. She said that for every one of those people that are marching, the dollar amount in terms of support that it takes per person was $7,000.
That seemed high to me. I mean, again, I think people
seemed high to me too.
From these economies tend to, live on a lot less than we as Americans would probably expect to spend on ourselves doing something like that. So
now, Fox has got people on the ground, and they kind of did a broad-based makeup of this group, and they're saying that 80% of the group are male,
young men, able-bodied young men. And Trump's position and the administration position is that, it's full of MS-13 gang members. It's full of Middle Easterners. It is, They supposedly have pretty good data on that now. Pretty good G2, as they say, intelligence.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, I mean...
And what he's been saying is accurate?
Yeah, a couple of days ago it came on, he said something about we don't have proof. Well, I think they have proof now. The military intelligence or the, CIA intelligence is supposed to be very, very good. And they can verify that those exact kind of people and groups are in there. But of course, as soon as Trump said it, there's no proof, they jumped all over him like, how can he make these statements? He's a liar. So, in addition to fear mongering about we're going to have a humanitarian crisis at the border and he's going to start a war, we have this thing about he's lying about everything. So
we talked earlier in the show about how that's the mantra that we're going to hear from the other side for the next 2 weeks.
Yep,
fear and lying.
Mm-hmm.
If we hear it once, you're going
to hear it 30 times.
Yeah, it's like you're not allowed to say mob.
Mm-hmm.
But who in your mind? What is the purpose of this in your mind? Someone had to come up with an. Let's face it. There's handlers. There's people that are on bullhorns, keeping crowd control, keeping them marching in this file. Moving the trucks along. When do we bed down? When do we stop and go to the bathroom? When do we eat? When do we have a water break? All of that is got to be orchestrated by somebody.
Yeah, and I will admit I haven't looked at all the TV on this, but yeah, I never see like these 6,000-7,000 people sleeping, down on the ground, sleeping bags, tents, or just out in the open. I've never seen any pictures of that so far.
Yeah, all we see is the B-roll of them,
You
during
just
the
see
day.
them, you just see them walking,
and they're just marching on like there's don't have a care in the world.
Yeah, and some of them are carrying Guatemalan or Honduran flags, and they're, if you're leaving your country, why the hell you got a flag up there? Like it's a big deal. Like you like your country. If you're leaving your country to come to another country, why bring your flag?
There's reports of people that were in line getting cash payments. I said, well, where did that cash come from? It said, oh, it was a collection taken up by some of the merchants. Come on.
Yeah. And it's like all the trucks you see, because again.
Yeah, who's paying for that gas?
Yeah, well, they're moving people by trucks at night, and there's some pictures of that. It's not across the board, but I think the whole plan is to gator by, our election and to create a political issue for Trump and the Republicans.
Now, there are some reports that it's creating backlash, and it's actually helping Trump.
Yeah, I think there's a whole group of people that view that. saying this is an assault on our borders.
Right.
Nothing to do with humanitarian things. What do you do with these people?
Right. We've got laws in place. If you don't like the laws, which is what Trump has been saying. Mm-hmm. The laws that we've got in the books are antiquated, and they're being obstructed by the Dems. Change the law.
Well, he's very successfully now picked up on Obama in 2005. I think Hillary in 2008. They've all made these statements that you just cannot open your borders to illegal aliens.
Jerry, what's his name in California?
Jerry Brown.
Jerry Brown. The first time he was governor of California, he was saying, we can't take these people in.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what he said. We've got enough Hispanics in the state. We don't need any more right now. Can you imagine someone saying that now?
No, I can't.
Yeah, and he's turned 180 degrees.
Well, they all have, because they know it's making it very tough for Trump to deal with this. And the argument is, well, there's been all this time, and no good immigration reform proposals have been put forward. I'm sorry. Trump did offer the Democrats to sit down and talk about immigration with a few basic things. Pay for the wall, something with the Dreamers, and one other thing. And they rejected it out of hand. So you can't say that he really hasn't tried. How hard he pushed it, I don't know. But they would not even come to the table and talk about that. So now you have this, and I think it's definitely designed to make him look bad right at the election.
Josh, do you have that clip, that 30-second clip of Obama in the day when he was a senator, talking about immigration?
Is that the 05 thing?
Yeah, the 05 thing. If you can play that, Josh, just to kind of refresh our memory as to what was said at the time and how hypocritical it is now at the position that these people are taking.
We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
Thanks, Josh. You listen to that and you go, really?
Hillary has said the same thing.
Bill has said the same thing.
John Kerry, Governor Moonbeam, Jerry Brown. All these people. And I guess, Obama would maybe say, well, it's like LGBTQ. I've evolved. My position has changed. Why? It's more of an issue now. It's more of a critical issue now than it was then in 2005.
Because the reason I've changed is because I think it can garner extra votes.
Well, and it can, embarrass the president, the sitting president.
Yeah.
who, he just the other day said, this is sort of reminiscent of a tin pot dictatorship. Obama should just keep his mouth shut. If he can't, have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Tin pot dictators.
Reagan tried to do immigration reform.
Yeah.
What was the one missing element in that whole thing? I think he did everything right except one thing. They didn't protect the border.
Yeah. Yeah, he even did amnesty, which, a lot of people didn't like.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
But they didn't protect the border. You cannot have a democracy without borders. You become a globalist society, open borders. That's not what this country was founded on. And I still support that the majority of the people want the rule of law. They want immigration reform. They want tougher border control, and they want us to follow the rules that we've got in place. What is so tough to figure out about that, other than, like you say, embarrassing the president, create chaos, so that possibly we can garner some more votes for the liberals that say, oh, we should have open arms and take everybody in, and
Well, yeah, I mean, it's to expand the Hispanic voter bloc. I mean, that is part and parcel of it. I mean, they get a twofer or a threefer. They get all this stuff all in one big movement. And, I mean, if you want to look at something that's, comparative to a degree, in 2015, 2016, there were all these migrants maybe with much more reason to get out of Syria and places in the Middle East, because they're getting bombed to heck. I mean, they flooded into Turkey, Italy, Germany.
Right.
And Angela Merkel, the German prime minister, basically let them in. Well, she's like, half a breath away from being thrown out of office for that. There's been a lot of backlash from German citizens.
She's already lost to 30% of her support and.
Yeah, and again, I mean, like a lot of European governments, they're coalitions, and they have to put together people to stay in power. So she's been scrambling to stay in power, but I mean that is an immediate effect of that has come home to roost for her. That she has lost a lot of support because I think Germany took over 1 million migrants in, and some of them, to quote our president, are bad hombres.
Bad hombres. Speaking of bad hombres, did you see the quote by Cuomo the other day?
No.
Not Mario the Pious, but his
son?
Yeah,
Chris?
Chris the announcer.
No, what do you say?
He fears the repercussions at the border if we send the military in, because they have a tendency to shoot innocent people.
Yeah.
How do you get away with stuff like that? Unless you're on CNN.
Words matter. Words matter. I mean, so people should understand that. You should pick your words carefully in a situation like that. But obviously, he's trying to convey a message that there's a very twitchy finger on the trigger, and that's anything happens. Old people die, young people die, injured, whatever. It's all going to be Trump's fault.
Right.
And
win, lose or draw, it's Trump's fault.
Yep.
Now, they're talking about who paid for this thing. Okay. There's some finger pointing at George Soros and his, what's his organization? I can't remember.
This evades me now.
Yeah. And there's another organization, Families for Open Borders or something like that, Familia.
I think it's, Puebla Sin Fronteras, something like that.
Yeah. And, they say they're behind it. And then there's a group of people that say Venezuela's behind it.
Well, it could be. I mean, even the drug traffickers, who basically, move people up there for a fee, they could be part of it. Because,
human trafficking and drug trafficking.
Yeah. I mean, it takes the spotlight off of them for a while and it embarrasses, the government of the U.S., and who knows? Depending on what happens at the border when they get there, it could be, open season on the border. I mean, there could be more and more people coming. There's already reports of new groups
evolving,
forming in Honduras. Yeah. So it's the old story about if you don't have some kind of defense, if you don't do something in an event like this, people go, hey, This is easy money. Let's
Easy
go.
pickings. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what happens when they do get to the border. Okay, let's just assume they get to the border, and Trump, who's a man of his word, we've already seen that how many times over, keeps his promise. He said we're going to have the military, whether it be the National Guard or the active army, and I can't remember what the rules and regulations are about employing the active army down there versus the National Guard. There's something that says that they can stand as support. I don't know, but
that's how you typify what you're facing. If it's an invasion, military is perfectly fine.
I mean, that's why he's perfectly legal to do that.
Yeah.
His number one sole responsibility is to protect the citizens and the country.
The security of the country. I mean, that's basic. I mean, it doesn't get any much more basic than that.
Right. So, what's your thought? What's your gut feel? What's going to happen? Be a prognosticator here. Crystal ball it.
Messy. I don't think there's any really good outcome. I mean, because they've already said the 80% of the people coming, the young men who are not fleeing any kind of persecution to speak of. There's not a whole lot of death squads and governments killing young men in Honduras or Guatemala or El Salvador. And some of they've interviewed some of these men, and they've said, we're basically going. We know we're going to have to cross the border illegally, but they get one toenail onto U.S. land, and it's catch and release. And this just goes back to the old system that has not been touched. No one will dare change it. That catch and release. I mean, so you're gonna if these guys get across the Rio Grande, wherever. And they might not be at McAllen. They might, go west. They might, do something else. But I mean, if they start getting across the border and are not stopped before they touch American land, I mean, we're going to have this group of immigrants there that.
And then we end up with the under the siege of the left-wing federal judges that are going to be there to help the.
And think if this is going on election day and the days and weeks thereafter. I mean, if the Democrats get the House, I mean, they're going to open their arms to these people. Oh, humanitarian compassion. We got to take care of these people.
My feeling is that this is doing a big time, not disservice. This is harming the Democrats.
Putting a big hurt on them.
Putting a big hurt on the Democrats.
I agree.
I really do. And I think down deep inside they fear this thing because they know that this is going to, it's just like the Kavanaugh.
They let the genie out of the bottle.
It is going to keep the sleeping giant awake.
Well, any sensible person, that lives here, has got a family, or even if they don't have kids, I mean, they're working, they're looking at their paycheck, they're paying taxes, and to think that more of their taxes are going to be spent on people like this that are coming here really for no good reason other than good jobs, people just get tired of that. I mean, people are not comfortable with that.
And those are the people that are going to show up November 6th or before. Mm-hmm. And vote behind closed doors. The ones that aren't making their feelings known for the most part in these polls. And I think the blue wave is just kind of maybe a blue ripple at best.
If I might, I would like to read this something I picked up on the internet. It's from a lady who posted something that was written by a friend, and I would just like to read this. I'm going to paraphrase some of it.
What's it got to do with it?
It's a statement from a person about her support for Trump.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And so, if I may, people message me why I stick my neck out for Trump. Why do I tarnish my reputation with a man that's hated by so many? I don't care how much the media twists what he says. I don't care how bad he looks. I don't care about his sex life at all. I don't even care that his language skills are not academic. I only look at what he does and what his policies accomplish. I see a booming economy. Georgia, yes. I see low unemployment rates. I see African Americans back at work. I see American companies that have fled overseas returning home. I see the oldest president staying up till 3 a.m. in a suit on Air Force One, waiting to greet our prisoners returning from Korea, and the pastor from Turkey, by the way.
Yep.
I see China paying attention to him and returning to the negotiating table. I see him strengthening Israel, standing by Netanyahu. I see him freeing Iran from a devastating regime. I see him tough on terrorism. I see a man who's delivering on every promise he's made, I'm paraphrasing, and the ones he's trying to deliver on. I see a lover of America, one who defends his men in uniform stronger than anyone I've ever seen, one who's proud of his flag without feeling sorry, without excuses. I see an American hero. Let them say what they will. Trump is a hero. You will see. I love America. He loves America. I love him as our president. No one is without fault. We hired a man to do a job. He's surpassed my expectations in record time, single-handedly fighting the establishment with no support from the media, by the way. And he's doing it for free. Stop listening to talking heads. Look at his policies. Look at his performance. I'm proud to support Donald John Trump.
That's pretty good.
I think sums it up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
I think that,
That's
captures
a lot of people
what
are thinking that way.
Yeah.
I don't care. Don't even bore me with, the minutia.
Yeah.
What has he done for me today?
Mm-hmm.
He's delivered. Excuse me.
And a lot of the whole thing with Dr. Ford and the Me Too movement and all this. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about his extracurricular activities, and again, that has been before he was in office. There's been no allegations that he's done anything in the Oval Office, like some past folks. And
Speaking of cheap cigars, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, we'd all love to have a saint or someone who is a Winston Churchill-like or whatever to be in that.
He was no
office.
saint.
Well,
I know what you're saying, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's an image some people have of what the president should be. I think he's not a politician. We all know that he's a businessman.
Thank God.
Someone says he's a crappy businessman. Someone says he's a great businessman. But anyway, he is what we got, and he's doing things for us. And the points in here about supporting the military, the first responders, police, he without a doubt is very strong on that. So. He has delivered on a lot of the things he said he would try to do. There's still work to be done. We got to get over the finish line on November 6th.
And that work to be done, interestingly enough, they came out with a report. We've been talking about it for 2 weeks. You heard it first here on FYN, folks. Anyway, about maybe what's going to happen in 2020. Maybe what's going to happen with the the Attorney General's office. Maybe who's going to slip into those slots. Former Governor and now Vice President Pence was brought on as the VP candidate for a specific purpose. It was a brilliant move. Trump hadn't proven himself yet, and he had a lot of evangelicals out there twisting in the wind, and they were wondering how they're going to get that vote. Mm-hmm. They bring in Mike Pence to kind of soothe that ill, if you will, kind of calm that water, and he delivered 100%. Yep. So now what do you do for an encore? You got Ambassador Haley, who just resigned.
Nikki Haley. From the UN.
All the foreign policy experience from the UN.
She was a governor in South Carolina.
State governor in South Carolina. So she was the senior executive, the CEO of a state. Now I think you're going to see her grab a little business experience. And I would not be surprised, and I support what Fox said, and I don't know if they heard it here first, but we've been saying all along that Nikki Haley, in my mind, will be the VP candidate that Trump will pick in for the 2020 run. I think it's a brilliant move. I think it's even a more brilliant move if after the midterms he tells Jeff Sessions that, thanks, bub, but why don't you go back to Alabama and take a powder for a while and then run against the guy that got put into that seat?
Roy Moore's seat.
Roy Moore. Why don't you? The
Roy
people
Moore's
love you in
seat.
Alabama, Beauregard.
Doug Jones, I think.
Doug, yeah. Go back and regroup. I got Nikki. We're good. I'm going to put our boy Lindsey Graham in your spot, and he's going to take over as AG. Let's see, that leaves an open Senate seat. Oh, okay. Well, why don't we take Nikki and put her in that seat temporarily? We'll appoint her. We'll have the governor appoint her to that seat. She'll be the senator from South Carolina. Trump goes to her and says, if he hasn't already, you're going to be my running mate. And what does that do for him? It gives him a double minority. It gives him a brilliant female who's well liked, and an Indian American, not Pocahontas, by the way,
Not Native American.
not Native American, an Indian American to run against possibly any female that the Democrats put up. Who? Kamala Harris, a Hillary Clinton,
Elizabeth
Warren, whomever. It gives him a leg up, and I think that would be a brilliant political move. So that's what I hold. That's what I hope holds true for this. The way this thing. Hope we win the midterms, and all of that starts to take shape. Remember, Trump is playing chess, and everybody else is playing checkers. I think he's 4 moves ahead of us, and he's got that all planned out. That's just my opinion.
Well, as long as he's 1 move ahead of the Democrats, that'll be fine.
That's right. All righty. You know what? Why don't we take a quick break here and let's regroup. Enough about the serious stuff. Let's get down to some. Let's have some good old-fashioned sports talk, and we can talk about the World Series. We can talk about the big game for Josh on Thursday night, App State and Georgia Southern.
Before we do, if I could, I just
sure.
want to throw out a couple things. There's all this stuff, the caravan coming towards us before Election Day.
Yep.
Again, people sort of start to concentrate on things and, just taking a wider view. There's some things that are going on around the world that could be, as, the Economist wrote a book, Black Swans, events that come out of nowhere and people aren't really tracking.
October surprise?
Whatever. Just to run down a real quick list, Taiwan is starting to do live fire exercises, which is going to really rile the Chinese. And of course, they're in the same neighborhood as the North Koreans. So there's some issues going on with North Korea and South Korea that are creating some issues. The president is single-handedly trying to do some stuff with North Korea. That he's cutting the parliament of South Korea out, so there's some issues going there. We have the intermediate nuclear treaty that was signed by Reagan. Trump has said he's going to pull out of that. There's people already going nuts saying, he's going to drag us into nuclear war.
He's meeting with Putin in a month, right? Is that on the table?
Yeah, I think Bolton is in Russia now meeting with Putin, but probably to lay the groundwork for that.
Yeah, okay, good.
You have Iran and Khashoggi, the journalist who was is gone missing, presumed dead, died. You have the Italian budget. There's problems in Italy with the budget. That's sort of rocking
on the Khashoggi thing. I think they announced this morning that they revoked 20+ visas from
Saudi
high-ranking Saudis.
diplomatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
we got the Mueller report. Most people think it's going to come out after the election. Who knows? It could be leaked. Chinese economy is rocking, and that's tied into the whole tariff trade issue. And we still have Brexit. The British are trying to figure out some way to peacefully and diplomatically disengage from the European Union. So all these things could, flare up. Some of them together could, get of quite good magnitude. But there's other things that could go on. There could be an October surprise, or, going on into the end of the year or early next year.
Yeah, so. Good points.
So,
all righty. It's about 9:40 here, so we got. When we come back, we'll have about 15 minutes or so to kick around some fun stuff, and we'll talk about football. We'll talk a little bit about the World Series and see what Josh has got planned for his trip down to Statesboro. So, Josh, how about taking us to break as you get closer to your days off?
Ace is your helpful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East LJ. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Clearance rolls on at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, and the discounts on 2018 Chevys are huge. Forget MSRP on America's pickup truck. Save over $13,000 off Silverado Crew Cab LT. Forget MSRP on America's muscle car. Save over $7,000 off Camaro. The model year and discounts are huge, but the 2018 Chevys are going fast. Hurry to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Here's to 60 years of Pizza Hut, to original pan, to stuffed crust, and to the best of both. The new double cheesy crust pan pizza with stuffed crust cheese baked just inside the golden edge of original pan. Here for a limited time. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Okay, we are back, folks, for our last segment here. We've had some fun this morning. We're glad to be here, taking over for Brian. As Brian says, it takes two of us to cover his. I guess he's got one hand tied behind his back, like Josh.
Boy. I think it's a wishful statement.
Yeah, if he sees that, he'll never let us live that down.
Yeah.
So anyway, Josh might want to clip that out. Anyway, so let's just chat. While we got a few minutes here, the 10 minutes or so, or the 12 minutes that we've got before Dave Garner comes up on the sports show at 10 o'clock. Quick update on the World Series. First game last night. We've got West Coast versus East Coast. Red Sox, best record in baseball. Los Angeles Dodgers, been there the last couple of years. Good game last night. The Sox got to Kershaw early, as I recall. They knocked him out, the Dodger ace, and got up by about 4 runs, I think. And then Dodgers came back to make it close, and then the heartbreaker to the Dodgers camp was a 3-run homer in the 7th, and they ended up taking game 1 8-4. So good luck to both teams. It should be a good series. I know that's the dream matchup for the media. Those two huge markets. You got the East Coast market.
Yankees, Bo Sox would probably be good. Or
well,
Yankees,
yeah, but that wouldn't have happened because they're both in the American League. But they had that luxury early on because they played off.
Yeah.
And ended up beating them. So
I want to know what celebrities were in the crowd for LA. Did Kobe show up?
Probably
was Kemp there? Kanye?
None of them are going to travel to Boston. You'll see that when they get to Chavez Ravine.
Okay.
Anyway,
Chavez Ravine.
Around Josh here, who's does an absolutely brilliant job on the helm back there. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does. If you noticed, Brian, all he does is throw up a number, and all of a sudden that clip comes up. And I asked for that clip this morning of Obama, and boom, it was right up there. Josh, if you got your mic up and want to join us, I know you've got a big trip. You're taking your 4-year-old nephew, is that correct, down to Statesboro? You scored some tickets to the big rivalry game against App State. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got taken my nephew and my parents are going. In my time at Georgia Southern, my parents were never able to make it down for a game, so this will be their first game at the stadium.
Oh, wow.
It'll be my first since they renovated. The day I walked off that field for graduation, they actually started tearing parts of the field apart because we were making that transition to the next level.
Nice.
So this will be my first time back since they renovated it.
This is a big Sun Belt Conference game, right?
Yeah, huge game. We're both, unfortunately, we're both in the same division of Sun Belt. This is the first year they've ever had a Sun Belt Conference game. So looks like the two best teams are in the same division. Hopefully we come out on top.
Now the good news is I think they're both bowl eligible at this point, right?
If App State wins, they will become bowl eligible. They're 5-1. We're 6-1.
6-1. So Georgia Southern is bowl eligible already.
Yes.
They're 6-1, 3-0 in the conference, and the one loss came to number 2 Clemson. And if anybody saw that game, you'll recall that that game was very, very close for the entire first half. They ended up, succumbing to some depth on the Clemson side, as you would expect, but they played them tough. And they're going to be a formidable foe. What did you tell me, Josh? They were 8-point dogs tomorrow night at 7:30.
Yep, we're giving up 8 in the spread. I think we'll cover it. I think we'll win. I mean, it's hard to beat us in our home stadium. We have the third best winning percentage in our home stadium in all of college football. So
wow, you get that Texas A&M 10th man effect, huh? Or 11th man effect, 12th man effect. What am I talking about? I'm like Obama talking about we went to 56 states here. Sorry about that. I do know there's 11 players on the field. I'm very sorry.
Your son's never going to let you down.
Yeah, I know, right? So you're leaving what, tomorrow morning, dark 30?
Yep, heading out tomorrow morning.
Good.
Be back Friday.
That town ought to be pretty raucous.
Oh, yeah. I can't
We're going to be running the show on Friday.
Yeah, well, let's see. What'd you tell me? Lonnie's going to come in and do the show with us on Friday?
Yep, and Sam's going to run it tomorrow morning for Brian.
Sam's going to run it tomorrow, so we'll see everybody on Friday at Circuit World, where Lonnie will be taking over. Let's jump over, Bruce, to the we got an announcement in 1 week that will determine the top 4 teams
The college football playoffs.
in the college football playoff format.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the playoff format now 4 years, and the ACC and the SEC has been represented in every one of those years. It always seems like it comes down to, and believe me, they're criticized because of it, but the records speak for themselves.
Yeah.
The strength of schedule speaks for themselves. The Power Five speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And right now the polls are aligned with Alabama number 1.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh boy.
Boy, was that a
Some of your friends are going to like that.
Yeah, they're not even in the top 25. But Alabama number 1, Clemson number 2, Notre Dame number 3, and LSU number 4. So, your thoughts?
It's gonna change. I mean, the LSU plays Alabama next weekend, not this coming next. They're in a bye week this weekend.
So they're 1 week after the vote.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure who Notre Dame plays. Did you say played Navy? Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think Navy will give
Navy's
them
2-5.
Yeah. Notre Dame
They
should win.
are playing in Annapolis,
Mm-hmm.
or wherever they play at I think they.
Yeah, near the academy.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they play at that joint stadium.
I think all the people below LSU are just going to kind of win their games and see what happens. So Georgia, Oklahoma, Michigan, Texas. I think they're going to be waiting in the wings if anybody slips up.
So the pollsters will say and have said that if everything holds true, LSU's off. Notre Dame plays Navy. Clemson, I don't know who they have.
I don't know who they play.
But apparently all these 4 teams they predict will be the top 4 teams coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's got Florida State. Thank you, Josh. Florida State, they're like a Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
The first 2 or 3 games they didn't show up, and then all of a sudden they blow out Clemson or Wake Forest or something like that. I can't remember.
Remains to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see if a real tough team shows up or whatever.
I think Clemson has gotten better as the year's gone on. Nothing to take away from Georgia Southern and their only loss.
They had some quarterback issues. I think there's been some, but I think that's resolved. They're going with the guy they got now. I don't know his name, but they seem to have solidified on offense. So,
yeah. People are saying, well, Georgia or Florida might be up there. After this week, one of them will have 2 losses.
Yeah.
And I don't believe there's a 2-loss team that's going to be able to.
No.
Not
with other 1-loss teams. So.
Yeah. Because
they play each other, right? The cocktail party.
Yes.
Is that this weekend?
Yeah, in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think Notre Dame, if they can beat SC, the last game of every year, they're a mediocre team this year. They should be able to run the table, I think.
I would think.
That maybe is wishful thinking, but I looked at who they have left, and Alabama's got to play LSU. That's going to be the
if LSU can get by Alabama, big if. They still have Arkansas and Texas A&M. So they still have some big teams to play. I'm not sure about Alabama after. They'll play Auburn the Iron Bowl.
Yeah. Josh, what were you going to say? UCF, the undefeated UCF.
10.
Every
year that's David and Goliath.
I know, right? Jeez, it's just such a tough. It's tough to make a case for them, and it's tough to make a case against them.
It's like those years when Boise State was like whipping everybody. And,
Yeah.
You know, they
go up on the blue turf and get your butt handed to you.
Yeah, and they none of those like smaller conference teams or whatever have ever really made it into the big dance. But
I'll throw the question back to you, Josh. What do you think? Does UCF sniff a spot out?
I mean, I'm with you. It's hard to argue for or against them. I mean, last year they went undefeated. They beat Auburn, you know, in the bowl game, which gave them a lot of credibility. I hate to see them not get a chance. I wish maybe the playoff would extend a little bit because 4 teams is tough.
Yeah, you know they've done it with the new coach, right? Wasn't Frost their coach?
Frost went to Nebraska,
and he went to Nebraska and finally broke his maiden race there. With a resounding win. I mean, they've had a heartbreaking season, quite frankly. I don't want to dwell on Nebraska. But, that loss to Colorado early in the season, I think really took the wind out of their sails. And they've had a tough loss to Northwestern. And
that was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, heartbreaker. And, they finally rebounded. They're a much better team than we're talking about. But right now we're talking about the top 4.
Yeah.
So LSU has got Alabama. Let's assume they beat Alabama. Okay, just for argument's sake. Then they go.
I think they have a D2 team or somebody they play, and then they play Arkansas.
They would go to the championship game, though, wouldn't they? They're in the same division as Alabama, and they beat them head to head.
Yeah. They got to play Arkansas, who always gives them a tough game, and Texas A&M, who is coming up the table. So.
Yeah. So
they got a tough schedule, but doesn't Alabama play Florida yet? Or
no, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. Anyway, it's always fun to talk about, and we won't have to talk about it. The pollsters will make their decision after the slated games on starting Thursday night with Josh's game down in Statesboro. Good luck to you. Drive safely, Josh. We're gonna miss you on Friday, but and I know Brian will miss you as well. But have a good time with your nephew and your parents and. Drive safely, have a great time, and I hope you guys come out a winner. So we don't have a lot of time here. We got just enough time to say thank you to the FYN staff and to Brian for letting us come in here and hopefully tell you a few things that you may or may not have known, may or may not agree with, but we've got our opinions too. We'd love to have you call in. If you disagree with us, leave us a message, send a voicemail, send an email, and we'll try to cover it on Friday with the All-Star panel. So, with that, thank you, Bruce. Always good to be with you.
You're welcome.
See you Friday, and thank you, Josh. And we are out of here.